of North Yorkshire Council here as well. It's always wonderful to see the young. They are our future. So I better get started now. And so, first of all, apologies for absence. That seems so loud. I have Councillor Kevin Foster, Councillor Annabel Wilkinson, and Councillor Peter Wilkinson. No more, thank you. Oh, sorry, she did send, yes, I've got to say that Councillor Moorhouse is in another meeting here in County Hall here, and she will be hoping to come about on the hour after her meeting started at 10. Minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of June 2025. This is only if they are accurate. Is everybody in agreement? Thank you. So now we come to declarations of interest. Has anybody any declarations of interest? Item 4, public questions and statements. Nikki, have we got, start with, there will be 7 public questions and statements, but they are a majority of them are going to be heard before the agenda item. But we have one from Cody Sanarivi. Anarivi. Sorry, sir, I'm having trouble. Would you? It's not certainly never my forte, isn't understanding names. So please, would you like to come down and? Oh, you can speak there because you've actually got a microphone there.
Good morning, councillors. I came today in the hope of speaking to you, Councillor Les, as leader of the council and executive member for home to school transport, my own councillor, Annabel Wilkinson. Whilst it's a shame she isn't here today, I know that's just coincidence, but it does mean that yet again, parents like me don't have the chance to put our concerns to her directly. I want to tell you that the trust between this council and parents has been broken. No, not by accident. It has been broken by your decision to press ahead with this home to school transport policy, despite the warnings, despite the real human consequences being spelled out to you. 3 councillors on this committee, and I thank them for this, recognised the harm it would do to rural families and voted against it, but the majority either didn't realise or chose to look the other way. I know that in May, to secure your vote at the extraordinary meeting, many of you were told, don't worry, any anomalies will be sorted out in appeals. But that was a false promise. Appeals are not the safety net we all hope for. They have turned out to be just box-ticking exercises. As one of your Conservative colleagues has said on the record, the whole appeals process appears to be rigged. So let me give you a hint of the injustices happening here, right on your doorstep and on your watch. Families in the Upper Dales are denied transport because officers have never even set foot there, say single-track, high-elevation roads into Cumbria are safe and won't assess them until a child is enrolled. No parent would gamble their child's safety just to tick a box in County Hall, especially when every local knows these routes are treacherous and impassable for much of the year. Families in North Richmondshire denied transport to Richmond School because the small Catholic school SFX is judged a stone's throw nearer, yet the same bus serves both. And for safety reasons, only stops at Richmond School, with SFX pupils simply walking the 2 minutes down the road. And my own son, living with life-changing type 1 diabetes, he was unconscious in critical care when school applications were being made last year. And like many parents, I was wrong-footed by the council's poor communication. References to catchment schools were still on the website, so I thought I was doing the right thing. The first I knew he'd been denied was at the end of May. His best interests, his very safety, lie in staying with his friends who are supporting him through this. But instead, you've shipped him off alone on a funded minibus to Yarm, Stockton-on-Tees, while empty seats sit unused on the Northallerton bus that passes our front door and carries his friends every day. These are not statistics, they are children, they are families, they are your residents, and we feel shortchanged by the council that isn't listening and that seems indifferent to the impact on families like ours. That must change. As we speak, another year group is about to be put through the mill and another group of parents will soon be up in arms. We need you to act now to stop more harm being done and more council resources being wasted defending the indefensible. It's too late for us, but for the sake of other families, today, I ask for your support of the committee to back and request for a fully independent and crucially immediate policy review starting this year. That way, improvements can be identified and implemented before next September, safeguarding the 2027 intake. It's worth noting, when you voted for this policy in July 2024, officers promised that the review would happen in July 2025. That was their recommendation, but without any discussion, it was quietly been pushed back a year. Parents deserve to know why, and we deserve better than delay. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your statement. We haven't an officer here today to answer for you, so therefore there will be a written one, and that will be put into the minutes, so you'll be able to, and you will get an answer to your statement. But thank you very much. We now go on to the next agenda item, which is a previous update on. Sorry, I have to find this. I'll get the clerk to read out. These are the updates from previous meetings.
Thank you, Chair. From the 17th of March meeting, there was the climate change activity report, and members highlighted a number of inaccuracies that required amendment. That was done, particularly with reference to the Catterick Town regeneration project, which was corrected to Catterick Garrison. Members also had a query on the provision of EVCs in various market towns. The delay in this was due to a national procurement issue, which is not something unique to or controlled by NYC. This is now being resolved, and the infrastructure fund is progressing, and we are at the final stages of the procurement process with a couple of items to sign off before contract signature. I did get that update in early August, so that may have moved on even further now. There were some issues around heat pump heating in social housing, and the housing team responded to say they take a fabric first approach to retrofit, which prioritises improvements to the home before installing new heating systems. Therefore, properties are considered on an individual basis and appropriately installed with measures that are suitable for the home and for the tenant. Because that was your query, Chair.
Yes, I think this was a query that I'd put forward, and it's an update on the Upper Dales flood alleviation scheme. The last time the officer spoke with the chair, and due to government cuts, there would be a delay in some of the areas receiving property flood resilience. This situation has changed. Fremington, including Grinton contract, has been sent to the design and installation team. The contract for War, Langsthwaite, Reith, Bainbridge and Gale will be completed this week. Watertight will start contacting residents over the next few weeks with a view to start design assessments from September onwards. This is really good news because the residents have taken part in this. They've actually put forward, because their properties could be flooded, and now we're getting on to the next stage where they will be able to have various things happen at their homes to prevent flooding if it happens. And as we all know, this particular areas were heavily flooded in 2019 and even later than that. So this is a very much good news story, because we're actually now beginning to, and there's some funding in place to do it, and we're beginning to see this happening. So that is a good update which we can put to this committee. Sorry, Bryn.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to the update on the EV charging. Thanks for that information, and things now seem to be progressing. Do we have a start date for now in the programme? Is it likely to happen before Christmas, for instance? It would be helpful to have a date.
I will try and get that for you.
Thank you very much.
I'll ask the clerk when they get it to send it to us all, and then we know. Thank you. Stuart.
Yeah, just thank you for that good news, because those of us who were up there saw the absolute desolation that the flooding caused. It was really terrible. So it's fantastic at long last that something is about to start.
Yes, thank you, Stuart. Now, we now come to the section regarding petitions, and as you can see, we have some speakers here today. But I think you've got to also look at your agenda item, because that will follow, to make sure that we actually follow what the petition rules are. So I'll let you keep that in mind as you hear the statements that we're hearing today. Now, our first speaker is Maxwell Simpson, who is actually presenting the petition.
I would like to introduce my petition to keep Richmond swimming pool open. The swimming pool is important for lots of reasons. Swimming pools are a place for people to make new friends, be active, get healthy, and for children to learn how to swim. We know that it costs a lot of money, but it is important to spend our money on things that help people, and everyone deserves to be able to learn how to swim. The grown-ups making the decisions all had that opportunity, and me and my friends need that opportunity too. It will keep us healthy and safe. Please keep Richmond swimming pool open.
Thank you very much, Maxwell. I think we should all, if we live long enough, be looking out, because I can see you in this chamber in the future. I don't know. I've enjoyed my time. So now we move on to Stephen Saunders, which Nikki is going to read out on his behalf.
My main query is why the structure of the pool building is now under question, having spent money on re-roofing and new, upgraded or replacement mechanical heating for the pool. Now the future of the pool is in doubt due to the internal finish of the ceiling. I have not seen anything published about why the pool is closed. Surely the internal costs of ceiling repair would be far less than the cost of previous works. I enjoy using the pool, which is used by various clubs for activities and general swimming, and used by local schools and local residents.
Thank you, Nikki. No, I think we're going to read all the questions out and then one response at the end. Thank you. So next one is Julie Young.
Okay, hi. If Richmond swimming pool closes, residents will be left without a clear alternative, and a quality and access impact assessment is essential to understand the effect on those without transport. The removal of one of the few accessible leisure facilities in the area will particularly disadvantage elderly residents and those with limited mobility. And the council must recognise this decision undermines their ability to stay active and socially connected. Any claim that alternative facilities can meet the additional demand must be supported by clear evidence, as without it, the community faces reduced opportunities and greater exclusion. The process also raises issues of accountability and transparency. Consultation with local residents, clubs and schools has been limited and poorly executed, with a survey that was badly publicised and failed to capture the full strength of the local feeling. Closing the pool stands in direct contradiction to the council's commitment to health, well-being and community resilience to set in Richmond Shire's local plan and policies, and the community deserves better than to have these premises and promises set aside.
Thank you very much. Could I now have Matthew Ward?
Hello, councillors. The decision to close Richmond swimming pool cannot be made without recognising the long-term financial consequences for the NHS and social care budgets, as reduced activity levels across the community will inevitably lead to higher health costs that far outweigh the expense of keeping the pool open. The council must also account for whether external funding sources such as Sport England, Levelling Up funds or public-private partnerships have been properly and actively pursued to secure the pool's future. A full cost-benefit analysis should be available to demonstrate the balance between refurbishment and closure, because the value of this community asset extends well beyond numbers on a balance sheet. The future of the site itself must also be considered carefully. Its cultural and community worth is significant and cannot be measured solely against potential land value. Transparency is vital, and the financial modelling used to justify closure, including subsidy and user comparisons with other leisure facilities, must be open to public scrutiny, so that the community can see that the decision-making process is fair, evidence-based and accountable. I'd like to also point out that this was written before recent announcements.
Thank you. Yes, I realise that. Thank you. Now, the next one we have is Rachel Simpson, but it's going to be read out by Julie Young.
Closing Richmond swimming pool would have a serious impact on public health, particularly for older adults, children and people with disabilities. An assessment of those consequences must be recognised. The council has a responsibility to demonstrate how it will offset the loss of physical activity. If the facility is withdrawn, because with NHS pressures and rising health costs, removing these resources clearly conflicts with the duty to promote healthier lifestyles and reduce long-term health inequalities. For children, swimming provision must be maintained since it forms part of the national curriculum. Many local children rely on Richmond Pool to learn this essential life skill, and guarantees are needed that lessons will still be provided locally. In addition, a clear plan is required to ensure that water safety education continues, so that closing the pool does not leave a critical gap in both health and education for the community.
Thank you. And now our last speaker is David Sheffner.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. In the last full year of operation under Richmondshire Leisure Trust, there were over 60,000 recorded visitors and users of the pool from a very broad range of the community, including schools, the Swim Academy, Richmond Swimming Club, Richmond Triathlon Club, Swaledale Outdoor Club, Aquafit, the military, Water Babies, Casual Swims and other regional clubs who use the pool due to their closures. The pool also complemented activities at the neighbouring Liberties facility. With the River Swale and other water activities in the area, it is crucial that people of all ages are provided with an opportunity to learn to swim. In addition to enhancing the tourism offering for the area, COVID clearly demonstrated the role the pool plays in people's daily lives, their physical health and their mental well-being. With all the pressures and challenges faced by us all in these current challenging times, this last point cannot be underestimated and potentially reduces costs to the health and social care system by keeping people active and healthy. The pool has been through 3 recent closures, including COVID and capital investments, and has bucked the national trend by recovering usage more quickly than elsewhere. This further emphasises the local demand, as also evidenced by the number of responses to the local petition and the council survey. Given that Richmond Pool is the only publicly owned leisure facility in the former Richmondshire Council area, can I ask local members whether they are committed to seeing the facility continue in its current location? Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I hadn't maybe realised when I saw the name, but now I recognise you from our old days at the district councils. Well, thank you very much for all the speakers, and I'm now going to ask Joe Ireland, our Assistant Director for Culture and Leisure, to reply to all the questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to everybody for coming today. As the Assistant Director was responsible for leisure, it's really heartening to see the level of support that Richmond Pool has, so thank you for coming. It's probably worth just giving a little bit of background, which many of you will know. Obviously, the pool came into North Yorkshire Council in March. In April, it was closed on safety grounds following a serious issue with the ceiling. The wooden battens had become loose and some had fallen. Now, given the costs and the extent of the repairs that were required, and also because we knew that wasn't the only issue with the pool, we took the decision to pause to undertake a full options appraisal in relation to the future of the pool and what the options might be. And that has covered some of the things that many of you have said today. So that did include public consultation, and we had a really great response to that. Over 2,200 people responded to that. In addition, there was separate consultation and dialogue with clubs and with schools as well. But I think the strength of the feeling from the local community about the importance of that facility was really clear, and members listened to that. We also, of course, looked at issues around supply, around demand, around the alternative facilities in the area, obviously including Catterick, which is very close, and did modelling around that. And I think, as many of you will hopefully have seen in the press, the recommendation, which will be discussed at overview and scrutiny next week, and will then be considered by the Council's executive in October, is that we undertake the repairs to Richmond Pool and the pool reopens to the public. So that is the recommendation that will be considered by members in October. Now, previously we expected this to go to the executive in November along with the wider leisure investment strategy. However, given the recommendation, we brought that forward in order that there wouldn't be any further delay before that formal decision is made. Arrangements will then be made for the works to be undertaken and the pool to be reopened. Now, the works that are required are quite extensive. Obviously, the ceiling works are the biggest single item, and as you can imagine, that's quite. You'll all be familiar with Richmond Pool. That will require quite considerable work, scaffolding, and what have you. But there are other works as well, which we will be doing at the same time. It is also recommended as part of the broader leisure investment strategy that the gym equipment at Liberty, which is quite old, is also replaced as part of a wider programme to replace that equipment. So we will be programming that in as well. Happy to. No.
I'm sorry, we can only have it at this, but send an email in, and anything you want to put will be. You've got her contact details there. Thank you. Because that's what I was going to say. A petition is sometimes slightly different to just a normal agenda item. And so it's important that we do follow the rules. But I think it's also important to say that it does interest, the fact that this interest has come, the fact that we've had a petition come forward, it just does show that this does count and voices can be heard. And I think that's very important. As you will see on the agenda regarding petitions, we will have 4 options that we can actually do in a petition. That's the only thing we can actually do. But I've been very impressed with what has been said by everybody here today, and the fact that we've actually seen what the strategy has come forward on Friday, which is why it's the leisure investment strategy update, which was published on Friday. and the recommendation to make essential repairs are undertaken, approximately 1.2 million, to enable pool to reopen. So on that basis, I'm wanting to propose that the Richmond ACC committee wants the Richmond pool to remain open under number 1 on our agenda, and that we ask the clerk, as of number 4 option, to send a report to the Housing and Leisure Overview and Scrutiny Committee with the committee's wishes, and then to the executive. So she will be sending the minutes that come out after we've had this discussion. Have I got a seconder for that? I'll go, right, Caroline, and if you'd like to say something, and then Stuart, you'll be my next speaker.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Your petition shows how valuable the pool is to the local area, and we were aware of a report being formulated on all leisure facilities following inspections about a couple of years ago. And a report is going to the Housing and Leisure Committee next week with recommendations. And under item 4, it states the preferred option for Richmond Pool is to undertake essential repairs at a cost of 1.2 million, funded from the Strategic Capacity Unallocated Reserve. I hope you feel that this is the right way forward, and I second the proposal.
Thank you, Caroline. Stuart.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm probably speaking for Kevin as well, because the pool is actually in his division, but it's just across the border from mine, and it is called Richmond Pool. So I have to say thank you, Joe, for publishing that report early. We were not expecting it till today, and that was your timeline. So it was very, very welcome that that was in public arena early. The petition is something that isn't politically motivated. It has been done by grassroots citizens of Richmond and the wider area, and mostly the users of the pool. And so it's very important that they feel that they have been listened to. And at the moment, can't say they haven't, can we? But it all depends on the executive in October. And I welcome the fact that you brought this element forward by a month, because I was concerned that, we were leaving it so late that we might end up losing half a year again or whatever. So it's good that it's happening quicker. And I think we should just celebrate the community, celebrate the fact that the council can actually do some investing despite all the woes and doom and gloom that we have about council funding, because that is the thing that worried most people. The fact that we mentioned possible closure when I didn't feel it was going to happen, but I understand why it was included as an option. And the fact that all the messages coming out of the financial side of this authority are, we're broke, or we could be really broke. And so it's quite reassuring for everybody to know that we have these reserves that can help maintain vital utilities. And also not forgetting that the Cantrick Garrison Pool is primarily a military pool. They have made some changes to accommodate this closure, and we're very grateful to them for that. But the garrison is going to increase in size as years go by, and its primary use will be for the military, and that will be to the exclusion of the civilian population. That was always understood, even when it was first mooted as a possibility, that the military had priority over that. So we can't rely on it as a long-term partner. And so, whoopee, I'm happy.
Thank you, Stuart. I think we all feel that it's a great relief to know that the pool is going to be opening when the repairs are done, and they are essential repairs. And I think what you said about you being over the border, I think what we should also remember that the Richmond pool serves very much the whole of the area, and the Upper Dales, without any doubt, the Dales people have used it for many, many years. So I do think that it's for the whole of Richmond area and even beyond, and that's very important. Bryn.
Thank you, Chair. This is just a general point about the usefulness of pools for the health of the public. I think it's very important that we support the use. Following on from that, you recommending that the repairs are done, you've done a full assessment. Can we have an indicative ideas of timescales if this were to be approved by the executive?
Yeah, the extent of the work we expect to take up to 6 months. So we are doing some detailed programming work, and we aim to start those as quickly as possible, but the works are quite extensive.
So we're talking maybe this financial year for it to be completed.
Beginning of
Early 2026.
2026, yeah. The works will take up to 6 months. Obviously, the formal decision will be made in October. Obviously, we're making preparations to undertake the works and to start those as quickly as possible. But yeah, that could be up to 6 months. So.
Yes, unfortunately, as with everything these days, these things take a lot of time, and there's no question it wasn't possible to have the pool open because there was some serious regarding the ceiling. But the sooner we can get through this, and the proposal I'm putting is that goes to the Housing Leisure Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I'm really looking now, unless anybody has anything else to say, then I'm looking now.
Are we sending the same comments to the executive?
Yes.
At the same time?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
So all those in favour of what I proposed? All those against? That is good, and I hope you think that is good news, that this will now go to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee next week, where the main thing today is that the local committee are sending what they believe should happen to Richmond Pool, and that's why this committee is very important to the community. And I hope you remember that, and come anytime you want just to listen in to the views. And I know that you said earlier that you'd be wanting to go. This young man needs to get back to school. So thank you all very much for coming. I'll just wait till the public have vacated. Sarah, would you like to come down? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chair. My question is actually for Yorkshire Water. And I know that in your presentation, you have said that £3 million is being invested this year in Labour and sewage treatment works. Now, the Environment Agency and Save Our Swale have both pointed out numerous very concerning operational issues at Richmond sewage treatment works and the adverse impact those issues are having on the River Swale. Yet we understand there is to be absolutely no investment in Richmond sewage treatment works in this AMP. And the question is, why is this? Just a little background. The Environment Agency actually said that they were very concerned about whether the incoming wastewater loads exceeded the design capacity of the works. That is a serious question. So I look forward to hearing your answer.
Thank you very much. We have another speaker and then we'll get an answer from Sarah. Deborah, sorry. Deborah Meera.
Thank you, Chair. My question also to Yorkshire Water, obviously the upcoming presentation talks about a lot of investment in dealing with leaks and managing the current infrastructure. So my question is, can Yorkshire Water guarantee that the 31% increase to consumers' bills in 25-26 will be kept within the regulated water and sewerage company to be used within its entirety for enhancement work only and not for remediation of past underinvestment in base work and not taken out to pay unjustified dividends to shareholders or inflated bonuses to senior managers? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah. And we just had a bit of trouble with technology, but I would like Sarah to give an answer to those two questions. I think you'd better possibly do those now rather than wait for the presentation.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for those questions. So firstly, regarding Richmond, I did speak to the asset manager, so the effectively site manager last week, who shared some data with me. The site is currently operating within all of its permitted levels, but if you share your concerns in more detail, I can look into them. At present, the site is operating within its biological oxygen dissolved levels, within its phosphorus levels and so on, but I can look into your concerns in more detail if you let me know exactly what they are. And then regarding finances, I couldn't comment on what dividends are planned for the upcoming year. The remuneration package is fully published on our website in our accounts every year.
I'm sorry, we can't have, but I'm quite certain that Sarah, you'll be able to get Sarah's email and you can email her and I'm sure she will know who you are and actually reply back to you. Thank you. Now we actually come forward onto a presentation by Yorkshire Water. Now I'm very keen, Sarah, that everybody will have seen these and have read them. So when you go through it, can we, I think we say 10 minutes a maximum to go through the report.
So firstly, thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you today. I'm Sarah Robinson, Corporate Affairs Manager at Yorkshire Water, so I look after our relationships with councillors, MPs and the like. So if you do ever have any concerns, you can contact me directly and I'm happy to answer any queries you might have. Nikki did share the questions with me in advance, so I have, as you say, put them on a presentation, which hopefully you've all read. So I'll go through them quite quickly, but they're just in the order that they were raised. Also happy to take any further questions away and or organise a deep dive into any topics you want to go into more detail with a subject matter expert. So firstly, regarding leaks, in short, the way we prioritise leaks is based on if there's a customer impact. So if any houses are left without water or with low water pressure, we will tackle those ones first. We then take into account the volume of water being lost from the network. So the biggest spillers, so to speak, will be prioritised first. And that's the simplest way of explaining how we prioritise them. There will be some exceptions to that. If it's on a major roundabout, something like that, it might have to wait until we can arrange for the traffic management and things like that to be put in place. And it's not going to be too inconvenient. Sometimes we're asked to wait until it's the school holidays, things like that. So there are other factors that do come into play, but that is the basis of how we prioritise them. It is also worth noting that sometimes you might see us digging lots of little areas. That's because the water can travel quite far underground before it surfaces. So it's not always obvious where the water's coming from, although you might see the water in a particular place. That doesn't mean that's where the damaged bit of pipe actually is. So it's just a bit of context to why you might see us working in a few areas at a time. Reducing leakage, so we are replacing over 1,000 kilometres of mains this asset management period. So they're the five-year cycles that the water industry is regulated in. So that's 1,000 kilometres between April 25 and March 2030. Since the start of this asset management period, as you can see there, we've employed 100 additional people into the leakage team, and they are working at the moment because of the water resources challenges we're facing at the moment. They are working 24 hours a day. Another large bit of investment we've got this year is into the smart network. So much like the rest of the world, technology is advancing and we're incorporating that into the network. So smart meters will be able to tell us sooner when there's a problem on our network, so we can get out there possibly before the water's even reached the surface and before anybody else walking past would be able to see it. River pollution, so combined sewer overflows, really briefly, that's when we have surface water from roofs, pavements, drives going into the same network as foul water from your homes, hence the name combined. When that network's overwhelmed during heavy or prolonged rainfall, CSOs do discharge into watercourses, and that is how they were designed to do. So they're not damaged per se. That is how they were designed and installed back when they were first installed. But over years, it's become recognised that that isn't acceptable anymore. We don't want to use them anymore. So we have been investing heavily in them. So last asset management period, we actually announced an additional £180 million into reduce the storm overflows. And this year, that's actually this AMP, that's 1.5 billion. So it's a huge investment into reducing CSOs this asset management period. As you can see there, they're the ones in your wards that we've currently got planned for investment. That could change slightly as we start doing ground investigations, getting planning permission, getting landowner permission. Some of those might change, so we might introduce different ones sooner and take some of those into the next asset management period instead. But as soon as we've got start on site dates and designs for those assets, we will be in touch with any in your ward and let you know what we're going to be doing and when. River health, so more widely, that's looking beyond those CSOs into what else we discharge into the environment. So the final effluent, so phosphorus is a big focus at the moment. That's really normal in household waste. That comes from things like your laundry detergents, your shampoos, your conditioners, and it is actually naturally in the environment too, but in too bigger volumes. So if there's too much phosphorus in the final effluent, we return to rivers. It can be damaging to the watercourse. So the Environment Agency is starting to introduce lower permitted levels in the final effluent. So we are investing a lot in phosphorus schemes over the next 5 years. And we're also working with lots of rivers trusts and campaign groups on our River Watch app. So people that walk their dogs, are canoeing, anything like that, and are regularly seeing their watercourse, if they've got concerns, if they think something looks different, they can report on that app and we will look into it. Sewage management and long-term planning. So we have a drainage wastewater management plan, which is at least a 25-year document, quite often longer, which is also revised every 5 years. So in line with our business planning process, it is also renewed. And that also works in partnership with North Yorkshire Council. So we work with them to identify where we can possibly tackle a surface water problem, which might be on the highways, and also a CSO problem or anything like that. And we work together to tackle opportunities where we can. We are about to start the next round of planning for the drainage and wastewater management plan. So we will be coming out as well and doing a lot of engagement with campaign groups, with the council, and so on. So there'll be a lot of engagement across that as well for the next plan. I think that's everything on that slide, but I will take any questions at the end. We also do have a pollution incident reduction plan. So this is different to the CSOs. CSOs are permitted by the EA, so they're not classed as pollution in that respect. The EA don't class them as pollution in that respect. But the pollution incident reduction plan is when we've had, for example, a burst on one of our rising main sewers, and that's escaped into the network when it escaped out of the network when it shouldn't have done. So as you can see, we do have a reduction plan which covers the next 5 years. Again, there's lots of smart network features on there which will feed into our control room and allow us to get out to possible incidents before they discharge too much into the environment. Also lots of looking at power resilience, especially in North Yorkshire where we've got more remote sites. Power resilience is a really important thing to make sure that those assets aren't going down. Growth and planning. So we do work with the local planning authority, in this case North Yorkshire Council, really closely. I know our town planning team are working with you on your local plan at the moment, but we also respond to planning applications. However, it is worth noting we are not a statutory consultee, so there's no obligation to consult us and there's no obligation to take our advice any more seriously than you'd take any member of the public's. So we do try and work as closely as possible with North Yorkshire on any planning. We also encourage things like SUDs and storage tanks to make sure there's minimal amount of surface water reaching our network, as that tends to be what causes the problem, obviously. Sewage is quite consistent in the volume of flows, whereas rain can cause lots more issues as it happens much more sporadically. We will undertake desktop studies as well whenever there is a proposed development, if it's going to go into our network. And if there's a risk there, if we think it might cause an adverse impact to our network, we will register that on our risk register, and that will go forward for potential solutions, whatever that might be, whether that's upgrading the sewer network, upgrading the pumping stations. We'll look at what solution is needed for that impact on our network. Sustainable land management. All sorts of things we could talk about here, so I've just picked a few key projects. So Beyond Nature is our flagship project, basically focused on nature-friendly farming. So the nearest site for your wards is at Leyburn and Thornton Stewart Sailing Club, and that the current land plan there includes hedgerows, tree planting, coppicing, and then new fencing and gates. They're all site specific, so lots of them have different things. So the nearest one to me has currently got bat surveys and bat boxes and things like that involved. It just depends on the site and what can be done there. We also have a scheme called Future Food Solutions, but that's more to the east of the county, and that's all looking at soil health and making sure there's as little runoff as possible. We lose a lot of our soil actually into watercourses because of runoff, so that's looking at how do we put in things like shelter belts and hedgerows to protect that soil and keep it where it's supposed to be and stop our rivers getting silted up. And then in the west, we actually have a partnership called Landscapes for Water, which is working with West Yorkshire Combined Authority, the National Trust, White Rose Forest and a few others, and that's lots of tree planting, leaky dams, which helps slow the flow of water and prevent flooding. So lots of great initiatives. That's just a few there. Roadworks and traffic management. So very briefly, what we do is we stick to the red book. I'm sure you all know what that is, but that effectively means we have to make sure if we do close a lane, the other lanes are of a certain width. If we do put a diversion in place, it has to be on the equivalent road classification or higher. So if we shut a B road, we have to use a B road or an A road as the diversion. We do use specialist traffic management companies for that. They're the most up to date with best practice and that book. So they are best placed to put those road closures and lane closures in place for us. There can be any number of reasons. We do get a lot of inquiries about we've not seen any activity here, we've not seen you doing anything there. There can be any number of reasons for that. We might be waiting for Northern Gas to do something. We might be waiting for a part to be delivered, a specialist contractor to arrive. If you do have questions like that, if you've got one in your ward that you're worried about, please do let me know at any time. I can look into that for you. Also appreciate that backfilling can take a little while, but we do get to it as quickly as we possibly can. That's particularly the case at the moment with the number of leaks we've been repairing with the water resources challenges, but we are getting to them all as quickly as we can. Thank you. Happy to take any questions. If I can't answer it, I'm not an expert on all of these topics. If I can't answer it, I'm happy to take it away and come back to you as well.
Well, thank you very much. That was definitely a whistle stop. But everybody should have seen and read all the documentation. And as you know, a lot of this has come from this committee have been asking for various things for quite some time, waiting for you to come and give a presentation. So I'll just put 2 points that have sort of come forward while we've been chair of the ACC. One has always been that when work has happened on the road, okay, we know the road is closed and we get notification of it, but then nobody seems to take in the closed road signs and the left, and they can be there for a long time. So I just would like to put that you could maybe send to your teams to say, when a job is finished and the road is now open, please remove your closed sign. I know this also can happen with highways themselves, but you know, it's a very important point, because people are still using the diversion sign instead of actually being able to use the road. And the other question I would say is that, you know, we have there's the people here that have come today regarding the Swale, and we know that the River Ure, and yet on your list you don't seem to have Bainbridge or Aysgarth for any work that's happening there, and yet Stop River Pollution seem to have been taking samples, and they believe that there is a problem. I mean, there's been various comments about people being ill. I'm not saying that's right, but I just think that, can you double check that? Because actually on your list you already have 5 areas that are in my ward, but I do think that we need to just make sure that, or maybe the question is, do you actually work more closely with these groups that are actually sampling? Because that's important. If they're doing work on the river, that you can actually do samples. I'll let you just answer if there's anything to say on that last one, and then I'll bring Angus in.
Thank you, Chair. So on the road close signs, I will take that away to our street works manager and make sure that's picked up. Regarding the assets where we're investing, particularly for the CSO discharge reductions, that is based on the highest discharging sites. So the regulators asked us to look at the highest discharging sites first. That's how those ones have been identified. But I will take away, sorry, was it Bainbridge and Aysgarth particularly? Yeah.
It's like anything, rumours start going round as well, but there's no question that they did actually take some samples of the River Ure, and it seemed to be quite high in certain levels.
Yeah, I'll take those 2 away and double check when they're planned for investment, but we do have a plan all the way through to 2050 to meet the storm overflow targets that the government set in, I can't remember if it was 2022 or 2023, but there are new targets regarding CSO discharges. So we're tackling the highest discharging sites first. Regarding working with them, yeah, we do have a dedicated river health team who are working with Save Our Swale, Ilk Clean Rivers, all of those sorts of groups, and they're happy. I think they took Save Our Swale around one of the treatment works as well to show them those assets.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Angus.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation, Sarah. Most interesting. I would imagine that from what you have said and what Ofwat said, that leaks, as in mains water leaks, are a fairly serious concern, and that you'd want to do something about it. But if I can just briefly mention a village called Moulton, which is right in the middle of my division, there's been a leak there for more than a year on the main highway. And I have hassled our area highways office, who have repeatedly said it isn't us, it's Yorkshire Water, so it must be Yorkshire Water. However, they told me the other week that they've invested in a new piece of equipment which tests for the level of chlorine in the water, and the water is chlorinated, so it's difficult to see how it would not be Yorkshire Water. Pipe. But it's fairly important that we get something done about this, because it's on an incline, and the water naturally freezes when we have frosty weather, which causes but according to local residents, now stress according to local residents, 3 times a man from Yorkshire Water's turned up in a very posh van and said this has nothing to do with us. But nobody's ever dug the road up to see where the water's coming from. How do I, as an elected member, put more pressure on you people, either to do something about it or put in writing, not just hearsay and a phone call, put in writing back to me, this is nothing to do with us, if that's the case. I'd appreciate your advices.
You talk to my team effectively, so I'm more than happy for you to contact me via Nikki, or you can have my direct details, and I'll take that away and look into it for you, basically.
Well, thank you. David.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question on algal bloom on the River Swale. I have the pleasure of driving across Great Langton Bridge once a week, which is, if anybody anybody's never driven over Langton Bridge, they don't make bridges like that nowadays. But looking down from the bridge, and it gives you an ideal way of being able to see the water, and it's quite, and it's probably getting better now it's rained, but during the sort of the parts of the summer, it was just green. It was quite, and where there's pools, where there's no floor, it's sort of, you can still see where it's green. When the water goes, you can see the green algae left on the bank side. And I just wondered whether that area is monitored. How does it compare to other parts of the swale? I'd like to think it's not quite as bad as it is there. I mean, I know sort of certainly water courses near us. We've got it's sort of Stokesley, Brompton. We've got the opposite problem where the water doesn't flow quickly. We've got quite a green sort of mess in those rivers. But here we are on the swale, where it's one of the fastest flowing rivers in the area. And I just interesting to see how bad these levels are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. As a rule of thumb, we're not responsible for all of river testing. So actually it'd be the EA that would do the general river testing. We test and monitor what we put into the river environment. So if it comes out of our treatment works or comes out of one of our CSOs, that's our responsibility, obviously. Whereas the generic river would be the Environment Agency. They're probably best placed to comment on testing in the river.
Stuart.
Thank you. So the first question, in the planning, growth and planning, you say you're not a statutory consultee. However, recently in Surrey, whichever water company deals with Surrey, they said that they could not absorb the additional waste from a housing development, and the development was refused on those grounds. So could you please look into how you can actually start influencing planning and the mega growth that we are obliged to enforce? And then secondly, what on earth do you do about invasive plants like Himalayan balsam? Because there are sections of the swale that look very, very pretty, but sound terrible once the prettiness has gone, because the Himalayan balsam is just spitting out and polluting further and further down the river.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, I might not have covered it in enough detail in the planning section. So we will comment on planning if we've got concerns, and we will work closely. We try and do it as a conversation rather than an objection wherever possible. But we will put in when we do have significant concerns about a planning application. And I know our head of town planning does work really closely with the council on all of those types of concerns, shall we say. And if it is going to cause a detrimental impact, we will look at investing in the access to in our assets. Regarding Himalayan balsam, we do have an invasive non-native species policy. So if it's on our land, things like that, we will look into it. We also provide funding, I don't know in great detail, but we do provide funding to Yorkshire Wildlife Trust to do a lot of invasive species control. But again, the whole of the watercourse isn't our responsibility. It'd be one for the EA as a general rule. If it's our land, obviously that's different. But if it's the general watercourse, that is the EA.
Thank you. Bryn, did you want to?
Thank you, yes. I'm a bit concerned that North Yorkshire Council in July supported blue flag status being the aim for all of the rivers, and yet phosphate levels are significantly high, as I understand it, in the swale. Also, coliform is significant, but yet you don't have standards to measure coliform. You're relying on some 2005, I think it is, standard. So it's coliform that is a health issue. What are you going to do about it?
I would have to take that one away and speak to the River Health and Bathing Water team. I don't know that in enough.
You would agree that you would agree that it's important that people who go into the river.
Comment. I don't know enough about it, I'm afraid.
I say
comment.
It appears to me that Yorkshire Water are not taking this issue seriously.
I'm happy to take it away and look into it in more detail, but I'm afraid I don't want to comment on it and be wrong and give you incorrect information.
I wait your response.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you. Could we ensure that your email address is shared with the members of the committee? I know that there's some investment work going on within my actual area, and I'd be interested to know precisely what that is, and I'm sure there'll be a few others. Thank you.
Yeah, of course I will do, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions? Well, thank you very much for coming today. There's just one thing I want to just say, and that is you have down as planning as North Yorkshire Council just on your slide. Well, quite a lot in your list actually comes into the Yorkshire Dales National Park Authority. So I do think that is important. And just, it isn't really a question, but it's something that sort of sometimes bothered me, is that we've got the Environment Agency and we've got yourself. Do you find that difficult? And I sometimes think residents find it difficult as to who should we get in touch with? Is this a Yorkshire Water problem? Although, is this an environment problem? We had one at Hawes just recently and it was polluting the river. And I've got to say the Environment Committee was spot on and they came fine. But is there sometimes a conflict between the two bodies, or do you work reasonably well together?
We work well together, but they are a regulator, so they are there to oversee us. So they can fine us, they can tell us when we need to improve, when we need to change permit levels, things like that. So they are a regulator. You might have seen recently in the news there has been a regulatory review into the water sector led by Sir John Cunliffe, and he has actually recommended one regulator. At the moment we've got, I think, 13 regulators. So he has actually suggested one big regulator instead to make it more straightforward, so that we sometimes have, for example, a requirement from one agency that requires a completely different solution to a requirement from a different agency. So it can be conflicting in what we need to do. So he has actually suggested one regulator. So there could be change coming in that world in terms of who's responsible for what.
That would actually be very good, and it would help residents to know where to go to. But thanks very much, and it's been very good, and we've all had some good slides that we can study. Thank you. Now we go on to agenda item 8, which is a briefing note on local banking and cash handling services, which I do believe this originally came from Bryn. So over to you, Nikki, on this one.
Thank you, Chair. Just a caveat really with the report, and I think I've forgot to add it on the end, and I did think about it and obviously forgot to do it. The information that I have about what's available in each of the local towns, etc., may not be completely accurate. It seems to change on an almost daily basis when I've done online checks about all this. But members requested an update on the latest situation from banking and cash handling in the committee area. We did share something on the last agenda, but the chair asked that it be included again today if any discussion was required. Council has considered this matter in depth in 2018, and the subject was revisited in 2023 when it was suggested that overview and scrutiny follow up on the review that they'd undertaken in response to concerns with the post office, up to me asking prior to the publication of the agenda that hadn't been scheduled. Parliament has also considered the subject recently, I think that was in June this year, and has called on the government to undertake a review into the impact of bank branch loss. Banks have generally taken the decision for the reasons listed in the report, largely driven by improvements in technology, customer behaviour and costs. They have created this significant partnership with the post office to provide local banking services. There seems to be a bit of doubt of the success so far of this partnership because it's on surveys undertaken, there's a significant number of people who are unaware of the banking business that they could do at their local post office. Then we've also got the issue of banking hubs, of which we have a few in, sorry, I'm just press my thing too far. If you in North Yorkshire, in Richmond, Knaresborough, Filey and Whitby, banking hubs. I don't know if you followed any of the links that I included in the appendix about where they'd looked into building new hubs. The sort of the criteria is quite restrictive, and I think it's a 3-mile radius if people can't get access to cash and banking services, which in an area like ours is obviously easily done. We're soon 3 miles away from somewhere with a bank, aren't we? Generally, it's a commercial decision, and government's taken the view that it's a commercial decision. So that's where we are.
Thank you, Nikki. I'll fetch Bryn in since this was something he's asked for. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this, Nikki. Much appreciate your work behind it. I'll just add to your table. There is a Santander in Northallerton, which isn't on your table. But that said, it's half an hour from Stokesley.
Yeah.
By car. So just putting that into context, our last branch closed. Our last bank branch closed in Stokesley this summer, and we have a post office in the back of the co-op, which have been advertising all of cash availability, which is fine. But the ATMs are often, residents tell me, ATMs are often empty now since the last bank is closed. There's more to banking though than just an ATM putting cash in and cash out. And I think we need to give consideration to the other services that you need in a bank. I've recently had to provide documents for an LPA. A significant number of documents, hand them over, certified, they then copy them and bring them back so that I can now handle affairs. And there's more. That's just one example of what else goes on. Those sort of things cannot be handled at an ATM, and they can't be handled at the post office. So what Stokesley is as a hub for Great Ayton, Great Broughton, Kirby, Hutton Rugby, etc., is half an hour away to Northallerton by bus. It's more like an hour by bus. Santander put a notice out saying go to Stockton. Well, you try going to Stockton on a bus. It takes you half a day to get there. I think there's more to being cash and ATMs. It's all about the other services that they're provided. And I noticed that Richmond have a banking hub. I'm asking this committee, will they support a pressure to put on the banks to have a banking hub in Stokesley? Thank you, Chair.
If I may just come back, Chair. It's basically anybody, you, a community group, an MP could ask for that investigation into whether a banking hub is possible.
So the council can pursue that as well.
I suppose collectively as a committee.
Well, I recommend.
I'm not sure how that would work, but we could look into that. But collectively, yes, you probably could.
I propose that we do that then, Chair. Thank you.
We have a proposal that we look, and this is for Stokesley.
Any other area which needs it, but mine is from Stokesley because I know it intimately in the area and the issues that have arisen this summer.
Stuart, I'll let you come in before we go.
Well, I'm happy to second Bryn's proposal. The one thing you need to be aware of with the banking hub is that you have 5 days when the hub is open, and you have a number of banks who will buy a day in the hub and others that won't. So in Richmond, it's all very well if your bank actually banks with the hub, but if it doesn't, you're better off still going to the post office. But Bryn's absolutely right. You can't get any of the back office services for non-buying in banks. And the reason Richmond got their banking hub so quickly was simply because of the population of the garrison, because the one and only bank that was on the garrison, Lloyd's, closed down. And so the banking hub saw themselves with a population of 30,000 people that they could service. And that's why we got one so quickly.
Thank you, Stuart. I mean, there's no question that we've, in some ways, we do suffer from not having our local banks. I mean, I think that is pretty well straightforward because, as Bryn has just said, it's documents and the important things that you have to deal with. But there's no question we're very fortunate. If you have a post office, that makes a great deal of difference, and especially to businesses, because businesses can take cash in and they actually can even get change, the absolute thing that is needed. And of course, we can all get cash out. Now in Hawes, which I'll come back to local, we still have a Barclays. I know it's not run by Barclays, but Barclays have appointed somebody to run it, a cash machine. But it's in somebody else's building, and it's always, how long will that last? It's always a concern I have. But the other thing is that, and I must praise the Labour Hub, because without certainly not stating any details of anybody, but they opened a bank account, young couple wanting to start off in life. You know, they could do all that quite easily on the day that the hub was open for them, and they could actually open a bank account, get themselves sorted, a bit of advice and everything. So these hubs do work, and that's why they are very important. So has anybody else anything to say on what Bryn has proposed? And I'm going to need somebody to, David, before we go any further.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do know a bit about these hubs. I sell eggs opposite the last remaining bank in Redcar, which just happens to be the Santander. And to be fair to the Santander, they're staying until a banking hub gets in place. And I'm shocked, and I know Redcar's different to Stokesley, but I'm shocked at the volume of people that are going in and out of there. And when you go into these places, they have amazing places. I'm sure something would work for Stokesley and surrounding villages. We just need to sort of have that will in place. So really supportive. If I can do anything to further that, just let me know, Bryn. So, yep. Thanks for that. And Stuart's already seconded it, so I would have seconded it otherwise.
Nikki wants just to say something, and we need it properly written out what we're going to be proposing.
A bit further information that I hadn't mentioned. I've not been able to find out a great deal of information, well, in fact, no information about the impact of this on businesses. So, if you wish, I'm happy to do a bit more digging on that. And just in relation to Santander, I know Newcastle Building Society have a bit of a policy to move into places where the banks have all closed. So Newcastle Building Society are sort of seeing this as a commercial opportunity, whereas the other providers are seeing it as a commercial, dead end, I guess.
With all due respect, a building society is not a bank. But when we have had those discussions with Newcastle Building Society some years ago about moving them into the library, the community library in Stokesley, in the end, the decision was made by them to put a facility in the high street, a new facility. But they don't do the banking services that the banks do.
We understand. I'll bring you in, David, but I want to say that I know that is what you've just said, but I mean, I've been in the post office at Hawes and seen people go to the Newcastle, and there they are. They've been able to have cash out of their account. They've gone in, want a few £100 for whatever. I don't know how much they were getting, and so it is possible to be able to get hold of cash, which is often the one difficult thing that people have. David, can I bring you in now?
Just on the comment of the impact on local businesses. So speaking as a trader, where I come from, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of traders, cash is king. By not having somewhere where they can withdraw that cash, we just rely on a credit card thing and you've all seen the adverts and the statistics where that money is eroded but by commission, and if you start off with £10, you soon end up with nothing because it just all goes in commission to into the big banks. And so I think we need to try and keep cash in circulation. One way of doing that is to be able to withdraw money. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we're going to have this proposal, but Nikki needs the. Can you read out what your proposal actually is, Bryn?
I propose that North York, this area committee, supports the installation of a banking hub in Stokesley. Do you want any more?
I don't think we can support it when there's no proposal to have it. Is your proposal for us to request it?
Request it, yeah.
So request it rather than support it.
I'll go by your more professionalism than mine. So you want to read it out how it should be?
So this committee requests a review of. So I'm reading what Link says. Well, this committee requests a review of the Stokesley community's cash access needs by applying to Link
for a banking hub.
For a banking hub.
Yeah, that's fine. I bow to your professionalism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, where does this go to?
You have. I don't know the details because obviously I haven't looked to do it. But you apply to Link, which is the, you see the symbol on the ATMs, don't you? That I don't know what it stands for. It just stands for something I can't remember. Yeah, maybe that very thing. Yes.
All those in favour of the proposal? All those against? Any abstentions? I think that's carried. Do we at this stage look at headers? Northumberland Water. Oh, what's water? We'll go to the work. Yeah. See, right. Well, you want to say something about Heather? Right. We'll go on now to the work programme, which Nikki will explain.
Just as included it with your agenda, members, I have made contact with Arriva Transport buses, and they have agreed to attend November's meeting of the committee. I'm aware that Councillor Foster is on holiday. I have emailed him and told him, so if anybody had what they would like, excuse me. Excuse me. They would like pre-submitted questions, just so they've got some idea of the sort of things that the committee wants to know. So if you have any specific questions, if you could let me have those by the 13th of October, and I will collate those and send them on. I'm sorry, I always get the letters the wrong way around. The Catterick Garrison Integrated Care. They are planning on attending in November's meeting as well, but otherwise as it stands in the agenda.
So one of the things that's been asked for quite some time was the ambulance response time. So we really need to get on with that. Whether we get it for November, they might have to be moved on to March. And I must admit, it's getting to that stage where the integrated Catterick camp care facility is actually well, it's getting towards the end now, so maybe it was time we just had an update on it. Or do you think it should be left for later, or do you think we should go with it now? Caroline?
I was just going to say, last week I attended Humber in North Yorkshire, I think it's ICB, patient network group, and there was a presentation on about the Catterick development, and it was a really good presentation. So I think if something like that could come to the committee, I think you'd all find it very interesting. I think they're hoping that the building work is going to be completed sort of early next year, with the building opening, I think about October time, and there's going to be quite a lot of different departments in there.
Thank you. Stuart?
I agree we should have that presentation, and we also need them to specify which areas of work they will be opening up to the general public as opposed to reserving exclusively for the military. Because we're still on the subject of dental provision, where they're providing quite a large number of dental surgeries, but all of them are reserved for the military. And people need to know whether it's a good area levelling up or whether it's just a unique military facility.
Thank you. We'll put that forward. What I was going to say, so that'll be for November. Is there anything else anybody wants us to? I've got 3 hands, so wait a moment.
Sorry. On the presentation that I've got here, there's quite a number of things going on. Community care and local authority, your sexual health, Horizons Drug and Alcohol, a GP. Sorry, can't read this because it's something that I photographed because I haven't got the results. Podiatry, assault, mental health, talking therapies, adult community mental health, older persons community mental health, eating disorders, early intervention in psychosis, and perinatal mental health services, CAMS, and then you've got defence mental health. In primary care, there's Harewood Medical Practice, secondary care, audiology, continence, heart failure. These were all things that were on the presentation that I was part of. So it sounds as though there's going to be quite a number of things there, but I'm sure if we had a presentation, we could learn more.
The thing we need to be aware of is that these services are being moved out of other areas. So what provision are Arriva and others putting in place to enable the podiatry thing is the ideal, elderly people to get to and from the garrison so that they can actually make their appointments rather than just when the bus decides it's going to go. There's a huge infrastructure issue around concentrating these services in one place. So it's good we've got Arriva coming as well.
I think.
Yes.
I think we'll put that on, but we've also got the ambulance response times and what we're talking about Arriva. I think we just might have plenty for that day, but if there's anything anybody else is wanting, which we could always put on to the March meeting, please let you go. Now, I have at the moment Heather, Angus and David, I think. So I'll start with you, David.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just something that's sort of cropped up locally in the last few weeks, and that is waste collections. We did have an update to all members regarding issues, but we still, I feel that they haven't been corrected, mainly on the sort of emptying of litter bins in villages, and seeing the pictures in Northallerton as well. It's not. There's a lot of different issues. I think we see it all the time where people seem to take bags to bins and think that leaving them near a litter bin is a good way of getting somebody to pick them up. But I think that the low point for my whole political career was last week, where I'm told that one of my villages had to empty their own dog bins because they hadn't been emptied. So I think it's just something we need to keep an eye on and make sure that we've got the same good system in our area as we have in the rest of the county.
John, is your item on the same as David's? If so, I'll let you come in now.
Right, thank you, Chairman. One issue that I'm coming across with parish councils is that they are not emptying the bins in play areas and dog bins. I've had no problems whatsoever with the normal domestic collection. It's the other stuff that doesn't seem to be there.
Thank you. I did have a word with the I call him the cabinet member, the executive member, and I think there has been quite a lot of problems, maybe August, which is what you were referring to. And I think a lot of it is the holiday time. And I think that may have made a bit of difference, but I might be wrong. No, we're not going into it because I thought what I can say is we'll get a proper report coming.
Yeah.
I'm on rumour, not on official. So let's leave it at that. Heather.
Yes, Chair, I did mention it, and possibly it can't wait till March, but I think it's Alicia Moore that probably I need to contact, but she came to committee about the EV chargers. As you've been there a few times, a lot of them were already put in place in the market towns, and mine are still stood there. But we had to go through a new procurement exercise because the people who were doing them originally went to administration. But we were promised it was going to be rolled out this summer, and we would get the first choice of it, and nothing's happened. But I think, Chair, I can't wait till March, so I possibly will get in touch with them direct myself. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Morehouse, I did give an update earlier that the update I received was in early August, that the procurement process was almost at an end. So because I got that in early August, Councillor Griffiths asked for a further update, so I'm going to chase where we actually are with the implementation of all those, if that helps.
Sorry, you do realise I was in another meeting, sorry, but thank you. Sorry, Chair, I didn't realise it being discussed, sorry.
That's fine, thank you. Angus?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know whether you want to put this on the work programme from November or not, and I've mentioned this before, though not recently, and that is the lack of staffing within the planning department in Richmond. I mean, our planning meeting, we should have had a full planning meeting, meeting of the planning committee last Thursday, and it was cancelled with less than 24 hours notice because there were no staff. Illness, yes, I know, but I've asked for a report from Martin Granger as to how many staff we have in that department, how many we would ideally like. And I appreciate there's a national shortage of such qualified people. But every parish council I have, and there's 27 of them, have Richmond planning as well up the agenda. It does make a pleasant change from transport arrangements that we've had in recent months, but I'm getting really, really concerned, and I'm now told, though it doesn't directly affect me, that the Hambleton Planning Office is in just a similar state. Thank you.
We'll see about putting that on, Nikki. Put planning on, and then we'll have to look at how we work on the day of the meeting. And sometimes a lot of this could be something written down to put forward, and hopefully get an officer to answer the queries. I don't think I'm going to ask for anything else, because I think this is going to be a very full meeting as it is. So now I move on to agenda item 10, which is items that are circulated for information only. Now, you'll have seen those, and the idea is if there's anything on there that you would actually like to see coming back, or another question, but it's not for discussion today, it's for information only. And so, Nikki, have you something to say?
I just wanted to add the request for update from the other water suppliers in the area included. I can't remember which council it was, the councillor for Northumbria Water. We got the update from, but it was for the supplier for Catterick Garrison, which is, I'm drawn a blank. I'm afraid I haven't had a response. So just to update you on that.
Since you've mentioned the other one, Heather, did you want to say something on your water, because it is different to the Yorkshire Water?
Northumbrian Water, they are very proactive. I can only say that I wasn't here at the presentation of Yorkshire Water, but Northumbrian Water are being proactive about leaks and things. In fact, if you think you've got a leak, they come out and they start telling you haven't, use of water. Sometimes we forget that. It's not just about the leaks, about what we do with it. They even come round and gave you a timer to put in the shower to make sure my husband doesn't go in. You put an egg timer in to tell you how long in the shower, things like that. But they've been out pretty good. There was a water leak in Great Ayton last week. They came out quickly. So I'm quite positive. I've been on a few meetings with them. And I'm happy the way, and to do with all the storm overflows. So I'm not suggesting they're brilliant everywhere, but my experience with it has been pretty good. Thank you.
Bryn?
I'll echo some of what Heather has said, but what I have looked at the Northumbrian Water report and gone into their background data, which they link to in there, and I'm concerned that sewage overflow storm overflow, which happens into the River Leven in Stokesley, they're not going to work on that until 2030 to 2035. It's a long way off that. I realise they've got a lot of area to cover, but they do have finance, and I'd like to see that prioritised and brought forward, because We do have children who were in the summer months and nice warm weekends in the spring play in the river. I think we should ask a few more details about their capital spending, because I do have concerns about children playing in the river when there's been storms and heavy rain, and they're not going to touch it for 10 years or so.
Nikki thinks that if you email Nikki with what you're referring to, and then we'll write again to them and see if we can get some information. Now, one of the other ones here, you've got a written update from the MP, Rishi Sunak. Has anybody any questions that they would like to feed back? It was quite late. Then if you have anything, Nikki will send something on to MP. Has anybody else anything they wish to query the MP? Thank you. Now, has everybody anything they want to finish off on any of these informations, Ash dieback or anything? Absolutely fine. Thank you. That's fine. Thank you, Stuart. And I have no other items, have we? Well, thank you very much, everybody. I think that's the end of a very interesting meeting. Thank you.